Hello fabulous people, welcome to my tutorial for speedrunning Pokken Tournament DX. I'm going to be going over how we do the Green League category, which is the main one, and the any percent category, which is a little bit longer, a bit smaller of a leaderboard, but something I still think more people should get into nonetheless, and I have some strategies that I think you will find fun. It's a really easy game to speedrun for just doing Green League, so I would start there and then decide if you want to go further. First thing you're going to need is cleared save data, and if you don't feel like doing that, if you don't want to delete your main profile, then make a new one. Beautiful name right here. Just hit the plus sign next to your username, and then you don't even need to set up another online whatever or anything like that. You really don't need that, so don't do it. First things first, the controller I use is the Pokken Pro Pad. I think that's what it's called. It's basically the one they use in Japanese arcades, but with the USB for this game. It's just a D-pad because this game has two modes that you don't want a control stick for it. I would say playing with D-pad is much easier. I just usually name them one. Your splits don't even start yet though, so no need to mash through this. You could take your time customizing your trainer for runs if you're into that sort of thing, or if you're a streamer and you want to interact. So I'm going to be going over how to use Blaziken, and then after going over Blaziken and stuff, I'll teach some strategies on how to use Gardevoir or Chandelure as well if you want to run with them. I personally wouldn't do an any percent run with them, although Chandelure I do use for one fight of the any percent run, and we'll go over that. But mainly Blaziken is the main dude. This is who I've gotten all my spots on the leaderboard with. Gardevoir used to be seen as the best for Green League until people found out Blaziken strategies, so just a little history there. But if you just are running for fun, which is what people should do, you know, not worried about leaderboard spots and you want to get funky or whatever, then I encourage you to try Gardevoir. I've seen Suicune is also like on top of the Wii U leaderboards. So yeah, play around with other characters if you really want to, but I'm going to be teaching Blaziken. Anyway, sorry for rambling. There's also a multiple amount of supports you can go with, but I'll go over that in just a second and why we use the different supports. So, first thing I do want to go over before I go over like the speedrun itself, I do want to go over Blaziken's moves and which ones we're going to be using. So yeah, you could just mash through this by smacking the A button. Make sure you have DLC too if you want to implement the main strategy I use, because it involves Mew. Otherwise you can use Eevee or Victini, but again, I'll go over why they're good after I've gone over Blaziken's moveset and all that. So what you want to do, you want to go to advisor settings, make sure the cheer skill on Nia is support. Her outfit you can change if you want. This has no impact on the speedrun. And you also get those 3 little DLC ones at the bottom, which you probably haven't seen before if you beat this game around release. So if you are just getting into single player, I recommend one of these. I typically go for one of these too. Yes, very important to the speedrun. Alright, frequency of advice. So I have tried setting this to none, and the downside to that was that my load screens felt longer, and actually timing and comparing them, that is what happened for me. I don't know if that's some bug that was happening that day. I don't know if that is a product of the digital version, or I don't know what it is, but when I've kept it on normal, I've found load screens to just either be non-existent or be a lot less. So unfortunately, hearing Nia's voice is for the better. Again, before I start Ferrum League and go into the Green League speedrun, I do just want to go over Blaziken's moveset and what you're going to be using the most. So you can go into training mode. Pokemon that you typically will be running into early are Pikachu, Lucario, Gardevoir, Machamp, Charizard, Weavile, Suicune, and Gengar. Sometimes Sceptile or Krogunk. I will go over what kind of fights you really want to be looking for, and what fights I personally like and dislike the most once we get into the Green League. But yeah, I would say just pick one of those if you're gonna go into training mode and test this shit out, just so that you're familiar with their sizes and hurt boxes and what works and their wake up timings and all that. Yeah, pick your favorite, whatever. So the supports, you can pick Eevee, Victini, or Mew, and I believe you could also pick Poplio as well, because it increases your attack. So I've used Poplio, I've used Eevee, I have used Victini for later game, and for Green League I always use Mew. I've done a few Eevee runs here and there. I believe some top times do use Eevee, but I typically use Mew, and the reason I use Mew is because one thing that Mew has over the other three is that for this, you have to hit right to get Poplio in battle first. Same thing with Eevee, same thing with Victini. And then with Mew, you can just mash A without having to hit right on the D-pad or worry about clicking on the wrong support. The bad thing about Mew is that its status effect is random. So with Mew, you get either an increase in your critical hits, an increase in your attack power, or you'll get both, or you might roll some bad luck and get neither of them. So that sucks when that happens, but it is a risk you take, and obviously a good Green League speedrun, you might want to take risks because it's shorter. It's like an 18 to 20 minute speedrun if you're getting good times. If you're getting great times, you can get under 18 minutes, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm like one of the only people that has done that, or the only person that has done that on the leaderboard at least. So Victini is good too, because getting all critical hits will help you win like attack trades. Like let's say you and your opponent start an attack at the same time, you will win that, and that's guaranteed because status effect is all critical hits. With Eevee, getting the attack increased will just make battles faster if you're cutting their HP down quicker like that without a critical hit animation. Because whenever you do hit a critical hit, it does that little like kind of like sound, and it pauses for like just a little bit, but it's not too much time lost. But anyway, I use Mew. Typically your opponents won't really use their supports. I've found not even in late game do they really use them much, so you're not going to get like tripped up by Frogadier throwing water pulses at you or Snivy's Leaf Tornado. Usually that's not something you're going to have to worry about. If you want to play around with other supports and find something faster than one of these four, then go for it, be my guest. Also, the stages that you're going to be on, I think this is important to go over. You will be playing on, in early game at least, Neo City, Old Farum Town, Teller Town, Autumn, Diggersby Land, Foss Volcano, and then this Teller Town. And then into the late game, you'll be playing Old Farum Town Winter, Haunted House, yeah, Mystery Carnival. You'll be playing in these, Neo City Night as well. And then the rest of these you won't really see. Magic Art Festival you'll see in late game. The rest of these, yeah, you don't really play on Farum Dojo. Also, yeah, Teller Town, Autumn. Yeah, so these are like the Green League stages. This is Blue League. Then you'll see these later. And these are important to go over just because, like, see the size of them on the right? You want, like, the circle stages for the most part. The oval stages, like Foss Volcano, usually mean longer fights. So, Old Farum Town, Teller Town, Diggersby Land, Neo City, the beach, they're good. Mystery Carnival's fine. Haunted House is meh. Old Farum Town is meh. Like, they don't destroy your times to a level where it's unplayable. Like, you could still world record with 5 Foss Volcanoes showing up. It's just important to note that it's harder to start the battle. It's harder to initiate a phase shift when you go on one of these stages. So I just thought I would point that out. So let's go to Neo City. Just for the sake of tutorial, you'll probably get this stage a fair amount when you do speedruns. Okay, so how I start pretty much most of my fights throughout Green League is I jump, I hold X, and then he'll do his little charge animation, and then initiate a phase shift pretty early. Now the goal in the speedrun is to knock down Pikachu's HP without a phase shift happening. Obviously Mew wouldn't have charged this early, so don't worry about Mew just yet. I'll go over when to use them. So you want to kind of get them into a corner. Let me try something. I'm not able to, okay. So typically when you start a phase shift, their backs won't like be this close to the corner to start out. That just like kind of happened. Typically they'll be like around here. Maybe they'll be really close to the wall depending on where you started your phase shift. But usually you start it in the middle of the stage, then they back up a little and they're close to the wall. But anyway, then what you do is you just hold right and A. If you're facing this way, you would just hold right and A. And then you just kind of blaze kick. And then usually by that phase shift they would be dead, but training mode auto heals them or whatever. And if they don't die, if they have like 1 HP, a few things you can do. You could hit right or left Y, just kind of tap it, and then you'll get this. You could do this. You could just mash Y, and then it'll knock them out. I just initiated another phase shift. Another thing you could do is you could blaze kick them, which you would hold up and A for that. So I'll just show you. This is regular blaze kick. Let me just get another phase shift to show you what else I do. Sometimes I will just chase them down, and then while holding forward A, just kind of do that, and that'll end a fight really, really quickly. If you're struggling, you probably wouldn't in Green League. You wouldn't struggle to like get in on Pikachu. If you're struggling though, jump and then X, and then start your blaze kicks. That will pretty much every time at every level of the game get something started. Another thing is if they are countering or shielding a lot, one thing you could do is hold up A and then hold X, and that'll do a flare blitz. You could even do this in this phase too. So that would be side A and then hold X. In dual phase, forward is right. In field phase, forward is up. So when I say like up A or forward A, like that's typically what I'm referring to. Now another thing, in your second round, the reason that you have support phase is because this is where you want to use Mew. Maybe not against an opponent like Pikachu or Gardevoir or Gengar because they'll have low HP. But you want to call for Mew in round 2. I typically, from the second set of 5 fights onward, I'll use Mew for every fight regardless. But against opponents like Machamp, against Suicune, against Charizard, this is typically where it's the most important, is using Mew. Because look at... Oh, I actually got no boost here. That's funny. I rolled bad RNG from the start. But typically, what you would have seen on the HP bar is Mew destroying them. Anyway, another thing you could do to end out fights, in field and dual phase, you could just hit A, and then Blaziken also, he gets like backed up by default from this move. So it's cool if you are low on health. One of the Achilles heels of Blaziken is he'll hurt himself. If you just like look at my HP bar, see how his HP goes down. For like any move you use to, no matter what it is, unless it's like a projectile like this, you won't use it, or this. So side Y is that one, it does less damage, and then sometimes if you hit A too hard, he'll do this, which also can lead to a phase shift. This is also a good move if they're doing too much damage to you. I would actually recommend holding A hard. It takes a little bit more time, but it decreases your opponent's attack. So that's just, those are the moves that I use in the speedrun for Blaziken. If you wanna maybe use like jump A, you could do that. Another thing that I do is sometimes when I knock them down on wake up, I hold up A like this. I typically do that if they're shielding a lot, similar to how if they're shielding a lot, I'll use Flare Blitz. Flare Blitz is especially a good way to like end matches in dual phase too. So if they're at low HP, they're shielding a lot, and then you do Flare Blitz, typically they'll drop, because look at the startup. You hold X after the first kick, and then boom, there's kind of a little bit of startup, so that might bait them to drop their shield. So now let me go over in the Green League, starting your matches, and what I typically do. So think of this like a really easy shiny hunt. Be willing to be patient. Be willing to just get what you need. Don't settle for anything less. But really only do this after you've figured out what opponents you're comfortable and uncomfortable with. Now, first of all, this, I will not pick it for a number of reasons. Krellgunk is one of the most annoying Pokemon to fight ever. So I just do not go against it at all, no matter what. The other thing is, look at the numbers. My current ranking is 40. Our goal is to get to top 8 within 2 sets of 5 battles, so a total of 10 battles. You're much more likely to get a lower number on the second roll if on the first roll you get a 20 or a 21. 22, 23, 24 are all fine. Even 25, I believe, is okay if you have that as your lowest number, but typically you want between the 20 to 23 range for comfort, because then you'll jump up to top 8 faster. Now, this is a beautiful pull of Pokemon, and let me explain why. Gardevoir is the easiest character in the game to fight against. Gengar is low HP. While it's not the easiest, it is pretty easy, and Lucario is pretty simple early game. Pikachu is kind of hit or miss. Pikachu sometimes will counter you. That's one thing that you can't avoid sometimes, is that your opponents will just counter you at the right time when you've already committed to a full Blaze Kick. That's why I say feel out the fights. Try to fight every character before you start like trying to optimize your run times to the point where you're resetting this, you know, pressing B, hitting yes to drop out a bunch. Before you start doing that, just get a feel for how every Pokemon works. Like, just fight a few Green League runs. Don't worry about your time, and get a feel for how every Pokemon kind of works and what you're gonna have to do. Maybe watch some of my runs. I'll have a link to my speedrun profile. Watch the other Blaziken runs too and see how they work against other Pokemon before you just kind of go in and assume that all the tricks are just gonna work. But yeah, Gengar I'm actually glad I got, because I can go over how this is gonna go in a speedrun. Typically how you want to start every fight. What Gengar does is they will like start with a Shadow Ball at the beginning. So what you want to do, as soon as you click on Mew right here, start your splits. So A, that's where you would start your split right here. So now what I do is I jump and then press R, and then I kind of shield. Sometimes you'll get hit. Gengar does that. That's okay. It's low HP. You'll knock it down before it even gets a chance to restart the fight. Look at that. Just a nice flurry of Blaze Kicks. That was like 14-15 second fight. That was pretty fast. So now I don't call for Mew again here, because Gengar is super low HP. You'll get it down without a phase shift even happening. But that's pretty much what a good Gengar fight looks like. You might get poked a little bit there. He's kind of tricky. I would recommend, actually, if you really want to, jump towards him or maybe run towards him, shield, then see what he does, and then maybe counter attack him, or just if his back is facing you, just go for the Blaze Kicks, or whatever. Late game, Gengar will counter you a lot more and throw more projectiles your way, so I do recommend watching an any % run to kind of see how Gengar works. Watch my any % run with Blaziken. There's no other people that have submitted with Blaziken yet, which needs to change. So Gardevoir is super easy. It is the... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, wait, let me reset. Hold on, let me go back. Okay. My jump didn't go through. So I just jump, hold X, and then like that. Normally they wouldn't shield, because I messed that up, but yeah. Jump, hold X, super easy. Back it into the wall again. And then, yeah, before you even get the last Blaze Kick, it might die. Alright, let's try that again. Jump, hold X, boom. And then you knock him dead. And then this, you want to wait till they wake up to start your kicks. You don't want to just go through a flurry. I hope that was a good visual example of how that works. You'll typically get the same thing for most of these fights. Outside of Gengar and Weavile, Weavile will throw shards of ice, so you want to shield, or maybe just throw a neutral Y fireball through it, because you can do that. Or just jump, but they might stand on their little iceberg and then kind of hurt you. I'm trying to think. Late game, other Pokemon that you also don't want to just quote-unquote go in on are, if you're doing an any percent run, are Pikachu, Libre, I'm trying to think what else. Pikachu, Libre, sometimes Scizor, Sceptile late game you definitely don't. Early game Sceptile you can just jump X. This is like to initiate the phase shift, but yeah. Hopefully this gives you a good idea and it's a good starting point. Now something I want to go over is the Shadow Mewtwo fight. Maybe I'll pull in some clips of my speedrun, which would mean there's no audio because that has commentary. So I'll just kind of show a visual of my speedrun, how you fight Shadow Mewtwo. It should be easy enough. Sorry if you hear wind outside. But yeah, then after this, what you want to do on the ranks, once you've beaten these 5 fights, which I'm not going to do it right now, but once you've beaten these 5 fights, when you go into League Match, what you want to do is you want to go in and then wait until one of these numbers is an 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, whatever. You want it 8 or less. That way, after you beat that second set of 5 fights, you go to tournament, you do your top 8, and then after that, you do promotion test. You beat the guy with the Garchomp, which pretty much it's the same thing. You jump, hold X, and then Blaze Kicks. He might counter you, he might hit you with a little jab, but otherwise Garchomp is pretty easy. You'll get a feel for it. You'll get a feel for the timings. Like, you'll get good at this game just through watching it and through using this guide. Like, it's pretty simple, and if you're ever confused about moves, you can just go into free training and then figure them out, or you could play around with improvising and trying to react to what your opponents are doing. I wouldn't recommend going for grabs. If you're feeling confident, I guess go for a grab, but I never use grabs in the speedrun, because if you do miss the grab, then they might critical hit you into just a death combo, especially late game. And in Green League, you don't typically have to worry about that. If you're dropping games in Green League, something's up. But, yeah, let's go over the Shadow Mewtwo fight. Now, the ones in Green League and Red League, you are going to ignore those battles. You're gonna ignore those battles completely. I'm gonna try and find actually my any percent run from yesterday because I implemented a new strategy. There are a couple different ways you can go about it. What I personally am doing in the any percent run for Shadow Mewtwo is I'm using Blaziken for the first one, and then for the second one I use Chandelure, but and by switch your Pokemon, what you'll do, you'll go to My Town, you'll go to Pokemon Settings, and then Partners. Oh shit, you might hear. That's the audio. Oh my god, if you heard my voice twice, that's the audio from yesterday. Yeah, I'm trying not to really edit this. I don't really care about cuts and whatever. So, you go to Partner Pokemon, set it to Chandelure, and then you do that again to set it back to Blaziken to go into the Chroma League. But at the end of the Blue League and at the end of the Green League, you just die to Shadow Mewtwo in the any percent run, and that's the fastest. At the end of the Red League, you fight Shadow Mewtwo, you win the best of 1, and then at the end of the stories, you do 4 fights. You fight a man with a Gengar, you fight a lady with a Gardevoir, and then you fight a man with a Lucario, and then you fight Shadow Mewtwo. Oh shit, am I hosting somebody? Am I hosting Shiny Collector? Was that playing the whole time? That definitely was not playing. It couldn't have been. I guess I'll see in the recording. Wow, alright, so if you heard that voice, that's funny. Let me just go over what I do. There's 2 strategies you could do here. You could either switch to Chandelure or you don't have to. That is completely up to you. So, the way that I do the Shadow Mewtwo fight is pretty self-explanatory. Let me just fade back here. It's actually easier than you might think. It's a pretty tough fight, but it's easier than you'd think. Another thing I didn't go over is if you want to use synergy bursts in late game, try to do it for damage only. Try not to do synergy bursts for like your burst attack unless you're really desperate and you really need to bring the match around and get their HP down or just kill them. That's when you'll see me do it, but try to avoid using it. So how I go about this, pretty much you want to work around all these projectiles, shield, and then when you have your opening, Blaze Kick, he'll shield a bunch. Sometimes he'll drop it, sometimes he'll hold it the whole time. You could try Flare Blitzing if you want, but he has moves that pierce through counter moves, so that's kind of how I start it. And then from there, I do up A. I do a Sky Uppercut. And then, yeah, you see I get kind of banged up around here, but that's the basic gist of it. Yeah, he'll hit you a lot, so this is a fight you have to be willing to die at here and there. But then I used Burst because I was at 1 HP, and that'll happen with Blaziken. He will lose HP because of how his attacks work, so in later game you might need to use Burst here and there, but this is pretty much what a good Shadow Mewtwo fight will look like. Then I just run up and Blaze Kicks, catch him, and then boom, that's the fight. Then after this, I used Chandelure for the Shadow Mewtwo fight. It's pretty simple how it works. I just Hyper Beam the entire fight. I do use Victini personally. You could play around with supports if you want because this strategy is kind of still in development. You could try using Blaziken, but it's much harder and you probably will die a few times. If you do die in an any % run, I just recommend going through it anyway so that you can learn the run before you really are going for good times. There I used an Overheat and missed, but yeah, if they are at around this HP, you can use an Overheat if you want because it'll probably kill them. I kind of messed up there. Now they're close in me, but luckily Chandelure has great counters and great get off me tools. Like forward A is kind of its own counter. Will-O-Wisp into Hyper Beam typically works a lot, so if you just tap A into the Hyper Beam, that will work. That's what I do for Chandelure for the most part. Now in this second fight, it is faster to die, but if you hit them, they'll hit you more. So if you just kind of like go for like nonsense attacks or like start a frame of a slow attack, then Mewtwo will attack you. So that's pretty much what it is. It's cool that you do switch Pokemon for one run, at least if you go with this strategy. If you want to try with Blaziken, please be my guest. It actually is faster. But yeah, you want to get hit by Mewtwo's burst attack in the second fight. And then in the third fight, you get permanent synergy burst. It's like this scripted thing that you're supposed to die here. It's faster. It's weird. I don't know why that's part of the run, but yeah. Alright. Yeah, you want to mash through that. I don't know if you could do that faster, what was going on there, but you start the fight, they get their synergy burst, mash LR, and then you'll get it. And then after you get it, obviously don't mash, but you do want to catch him with your synergy burst once, because his goal is to catch you with it, and he probably will get you with it, especially if you're jumping or whatever, but it takes up pretty much the whole field. His synergy attack is wild. He probably will get you, but if you can avoid getting hit, that's amazing. Saves you time. If you don't need to use yours, even better, but you probably will, because he will do a lot of damage on you. But yeah, that's what a good Shadow Mewtwo looks like. Yeah, he hit me here, so tragic, rip. Anyway, this was actually a PB. I haven't submitted it because I do think I can do better, but if you do want to watch a decent run, you can go to my Twitch videos. This is called Speedrunning PB Attempts, and I believe it was the first run I did. So if you want to see how the fights work and all that, I do recommend going through that. Or you can go to my speedrun.com profile and you can watch the any % run. Or the Green League. Leagues Revisit is pretty self-explanatory. Like, you can just look at the rules for that if you're confused about anything. All the rules are here. It starts when you select your first fight, and then timing stops right on the Great of Garchomp for Green League. And then any %, your run is over after the promotion to S rank, which is Chroma League. You beat Glenn, I believe his name is. But yeah, I hope that helps you, and I hope people are interested in running Pokken Tournament. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up. My Discord is Kevy5767 if you want to send me a message, or you can follow me on Twitter at KevyPride. Yep, that's my Twitter. Oh, my friend Lily might see I was creeping on her Twitter. Hi Lily, I know she's awesome streamer. Anyway, actually, you know what? Shoutouts to her. Yeah, I was scrolling her profile because she made a cake and it looked good. I liked it, and then I was like, oh hey, how you doing? I scrolled this far, I saw this video, I laughed, and then I made a speedrun tutorial. Anyway, shoutouts to Lily. I guess she gets the shoutout of this video. Anyway, yeah, if you have questions, hit me up. This is a completely unedited, unscripted video. I just want people to get into Pokken. Sorry if I ifed and ummed too much, but yeah, do a run sometime. Get yourself on this leaderboard, alright? Bye! I realized I forgot to go over the other Pokemon I said I'd go over. So, another Pokemon you can use for Green League is Gardevoir. So, if you do want to go that route, it's pretty fun and simple. Really, really easy to do. I don't know what Pokemon you want to be looking for or avoiding, so I'm just going to kind of go into a fight and go over how Gardevoir works. I've noticed most people use Eevee for Gardevoir, so I'll do that, but you can use any of the other four I went over. And Chandelure is pretty much what I showed in the Shadow Mewtwo fight. It's just hold forward Y, do the Hyper Beam with forward Y, and then press A to do Will-O-Wisps. With Gardevoir, what you want to do is you want to hold forward Y as well, and just kind of do this. This is why Phospholcano is also kind of a mess stage. It's kind of good for Gardevoir actually if you're at the right distance, but yeah, this is also kind of a mediocre speedrun strat because they can jump over shit and that's annoying. If they get close to you, you could just like grab them or you could do whatever, but that's how Gardevoir works. Fairly simple. I personally wouldn't really do a run of them if you're looking for good times. If you're looking for fun though, go for it. Yeah. So that's how that works. I hope this was a good tutorial. If you, again, if you have any questions, hit me up. Bye.